What up, man? How you doing, my brother? I hope you had a blessed Father's Day.
Oh man, yeah, bro. It is, yeah. Father's Day. So being on the road, bro, like I didn't really, it was kind of like on my birthday. Like it was just another day, man. It really was. But to all of the to all of my fellow fathers out there, for sure, man, I hope that y'all respective Father's Days were absolutely incredible. For me, it was just another day in the office. Well, on the road. How
Right.
about you though? How's life on your side, my brother?
Man, it's clicking. It's just getting in front of centers of influence and working through them. So one of my partners, that's all he does, and that's all he's done for the myriad of different businesses that he either still has or that he's had in the past. And it's been interesting to go fishing instead of for fish, for other fishermen.
Mm.
So
See, you can't let that go over people's head, bro. Get that back one more time, man.
I was going fishing for other fishermen. And it's basically, if we keep it to a fishing analogy, instead of just casting out a single line, you're shooting nets in every single direction. So
Bars.
it's a completely different game where initially it was slower, where people that were spending the same hours I was just on personal production, building a pipeline and getting businesses in there. I'm in a position where one of the guys we're gonna do his tax plan in about 2 weeks. He owns 3 or 4 banks and he owns a couple other things. So we're gonna get his tax plan going, which is gonna be dope. But as soon as we get him through and he signs a letter of intent and we take care of him the right way, he has 5,000 businesses that he has funded through his bank that are local, that are earning multiple six figures. So he's like, I'll give them all to you guys. He's saying, I'm the type of person that I got to do something first before I recommend it. I was like, I salute you. I salute you on that. I'm the same way. I went and became a certified tax and business advisor before I told any of my other professional friends maybe to check it out. Maybe it's a designation that helps them in what they're doing and the services. So, bro, it's great. I'm really really excited. Pretty soon, I'm gonna be. I think in the next 4 weeks, gonna be speaking in front of the. Excuse me, if I don't remember their acronym, but it was basically the Restaurant Association. So they're a affiliate group to go there and talk about saving them some money, and
Is
there's
that a
some different
national
things.
thing, or is that Colorado, or what?
So there are different branches. So I'll be speaking to the branch that is Colorado and mostly Colorado Springs business owners. But you know how it goes. You knock it out the park, you get invited to the next show to do it again and do it again. And I'm really excited to talk to these guys about stuff that we can implement in 12 weeks that completely changes their bottom line. Where, like we've talked about on this show, 125 plans and how we combine those with a MERP. So a MERP is a medical expense reimbursement plan, and it's basically a tax vehicle for some of the medical costs to help business owners out with the fees associated with business ownership. So once your business becomes a certain size, everybody needs healthcare. So combining a MERP with a 125 plan ends up creating a ton of cash flow for businesses where it's approximately $1,000 per employee that they're getting back tax free every single year. So that's cool. I just added a new tool for my.
So quick thing on that. When you were talking to these restaurant owners, conversation evolves because in order for them to truly be able to benefit from the invaluable resources that you're going to bring to them, they first got to be cash flowing. Like they first got to be profitable in order for there to be the opportunity to curtail the taxation. So if they're not actively tracking their food cost, food waste, portion sizes, or
even pouring, making sure they're not over pouring drinks, because that's hundreds of thousands of dollars out the door.
So if they're not actively tracking those things, then let them know there is a resource for that in your boy.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I've already told one of my clients we're doing something different for them. They don't have a very large staff. They have a staff of about 10, and most of the people are part-time, and the business owners are really working like crazy in the business right now. One thing that they are going to do is a FICA rebate program. So that's something that almost nobody knows about. But essentially, it's been around for about 30 years, and the tax paid on tips, it's, owners overpay on that, and they don't need to pay on that. It's supposed to be paid on the employee side, but most owners end up paying it anyways because of their tax professional doesn't understand 45B and how it works in the IRC. So it ends up being a refund back. I was just talking to one of my colleagues 2 hours ago. He's working with this restaurant where they're going to be able to recoup 7 years of FICA taxes that they've paid. 7 years. So it's going to end up being like $1.2 million that business owner is going to get in a check from the IRS 6 weeks from now, and tax-free money. That is a game changer for any business owner.
Facts. Yeah. No. So again, man, when you chopping it up with them, because the taxation piece that end up being icing on the cake once you finally work through all of the bugs of becoming profitable, and that be the part that a lot of too many small businesses just don't understand. You know what I mean? And even down to the recipes, where it's like, and that's why restaurants are so difficult as a business. Like most restaurants fail because cooking is generally an emotional experience where the person that's really good at cooking, when they in the kitchen, it's not no exact science to how they do what they do. Like they know I need to put this amount in, like it's just like this amount of shakes, or that amount of whatever component that is a part of whatever that they're preparing, and they're just doing that without a disciplined recipe that takes into account the exact amount of all of the ingredients, from the seasonings to the raw materials, rather that be the chicken or the beef or the steak, or the chicken. I was getting ready to say steak, like that ain't beef, but the turkey or what have you. Absent having that recipe, the cooking itself, it doesn't become a science. It becomes a profit killer, because every chef is chefing differently, which requires a different amount of materials, a different amount of raw materials for whatever it is that they're preparing. So that is the difference between one sandwich and its total cost costing the company $13 when it's on their menu for $12. So just because that sandwich ended up costing the restaurant $13 because they didn't have a disciplined recipe or an intentional preparation process in place, as far as, this box of tomatoes should produce this amount of slices that service this amount of sandwiches, or this package of chicken should be sliced in a way where it services this amount of plates. When that's not done, then again, the cost of production for the plate or the burger or what have you ends up exceeding what they're charging. And it's not a situation where because this meal took more to prepare, we're now going to charge the customer more. Like that's not how restauranting works. So end up eating that cost, no pun intended. And it's just a race to the bottom. So again, man, as you having them conversations, man, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was trying to connect you with this gal who's been growing her business and she's been growing it through acquisition, which is dope. All of her deals have been seller finance, which is also dope. So for those who don't know, that means she's not going and taking money out of her bank account to buy a business. She is telling that business owner, hey, you are becoming the bank for me. So you're going to give me the business, and the business is going to give you X amount of money for Y amount of time. That's what seller finance is. So she gets to keep her money in her bank account while acquiring an asset. And a lot of savvy business owners grow their businesses through acquisition because it can be, depending on what you're doing, it can be much simpler to buy cash flow than to scale a business.
Hold on,
You can,
you said that they grow their business by purchasing other businesses.
yes, they're growing through acquisition.
Now, what type of capital availability does a business need in order to be able to do that?
So are you asking what do the numbers need to look like
Well,
for a
not
seller?
not their performance. No. I'm talking the business owner themselves, like the business owner that is looking to acquire other businesses.
Mhm.
If they don't have the cash flow themselves from the business that they are operating to actually cover the acquisition of the new business, what types of access to capital would they need in order to purchase another business?
Great question. So just to make this simple, we're gonna say the new owner, her name is Mary, the old owner and to be acquired, his name is Mark. So Mary's looking to buy this business that is, it's either just like her business or it can be in that spoke of, sharing clients where if you have an HVAC company, you might buy an electrical company because you can share clients back and forth or a construction company. So it could be something similar or it could be the exact same thing when you're acquiring up. So when Mary is going to acquire the new business from Mark, she's saying, hey, Mark, I see your price here, and I've done my research, done my homework, and your business really isn't valued at this amount. Can you tell me how you got to this number and why? 9 out of 10 times, Mark is going to say, hey, I need to sell this business because I need money. I'm going through a divorce. Someone died. Um, there's a disease. It's one of those factors that is making Mark sell this business. So she goes, okay, I totally understand. Really, I think your business is valued at double what it really should be. But here's what we can do. I'm still going to get you your number, but I'm not going to go to a bank and take the money out to buy you. You are going to become the bank, Mark. So you're going to sell me the business on seller finance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 50 grand, let's say 30 grand. It doesn't have to be any money exchanged. But there are some folks that say always put 10% down, never be 100% leveraged in a deal. So let's say she puts $50,000 down. Mary gives Mark $50,000 and then Mark gives her a $1.5 million company. Now that she has the company, Mark's going to start getting monthly payments for the next 15 years from the new business that was just acquired.
What role do third party valuations play in that? Because my understanding of the acquisition process is that those third party valuations are required, because without a third party valuation, someone could value their business at $1 and sell it to a family member and for that $1, which then would cut Uncle Sam out from what their taxation would otherwise be if it were actually truly valued, because we know it would be valued at over $1. You know what I mean?
No, I totally understand. So sometimes stuff like that does happen with art and promissory notes, and there's a whole world of ways people will transfer assets to try to miss out on the tax deal. Um, just to remind everyone here, here at Tax Erasers, we offset any asset of $1 million or more being sold by 99.9%, making the effective capital gains 0.1%. So you don't have to play the crazy game, sell the asset, and we will help you mitigate the taxes. Now, with what Jesse said, talking about compliance and talking about different regulations you have to follow, those are definitely things when your company gets to a certain size or you're in a certain industry. But outside of that, you can do those deals. I have someone right now that we're going to do a tax plan for, and they sold the business to their son for like $1,000, and the business is doing, it's probably doing about $70,000 a month. And you can do that, and you could do like these family plans. You can do ESA. It's like it's all this stuff you can do to be able to transfer ownership, where it doesn't necessarily have to be a sale. But just for sake of conversation, keeping things vanilla, third party valuations are very, very important, because most of the time you are not selling to your family member, you're selling to another person. And you want to make sure you're getting the right amount of money. The guy or gal buying the business wants to make sure they are purchasing an asset at the right numbers so it's scalable and they're going to get return of their capital. So in her instant, because she's in the exact same business, she does her own books, she does a lot of stuff, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to hand her off to you. I was like, wow, you're doing literally everything in your company. She's like, that's right. I work 7 days a week. I was like, yeah, I got somebody you got to talk to, because you're making money. You're just not making a life that you want to make. But interesting enough, it goes into the mental piece, which is what I wanted to talk about today, anyways. As soon as I started bringing up, like, building systems so she could pull away, she's like, no, you don't understand. I'm responsible. I'm responsible for these people to get paid, for these animals to get taken care of. And I'm like, I get that. Do you get that other business owners are also responsible for employees getting paid and for whatever service or product that's being rendered? Like what like what are we talking about? But it was a great reminder that just because somebody is making money or they want to make more money does not mean they're your prospect. So that person probably isn't a prospect to work with Bullseye Consulting, because she wants to stronghold the whole business. And some people, I think she wants to exit in a year and a half. So if you want to stronghold it for a year and a half and you're going to exit, cool. I would also think it will be a better exit if you put enterprise value in the company. That's what I'm learning through SEPA. You know, when we talk about the different legs of the stool and how to build something where the new owner comes in and there's value. All the value is not tied up in the owner and the
Right.
previous owner's head
Right.
and time and sweat equity.
You know what I just recognized, my brother? We never did the disclaimer.
Oh man, you, guys, we are business dudes through and through. We just love to hop in and talk about stuff. So go ahead and do that disclaimer. So look, as you see, guys, we have a lot of actionable, real information from from our clients. We're not teaching you from somebody else's case studies. We do business every single day. And with that, we highly encourage you to work with licensed professionals, bonded if need be, with a long track record of success. You always have to do your own research. And as you learn more, each one, reach one, teach one, because that's how we learn and grow as a community. So, it's funny, man. It just made me laugh. So it's like, man, I was excited. I was like, she needs this and this and this. Jesse's going to be able to help her out. It's like, ooh, Jesse's not going to be able to help her out.
And that's why on my side, the discovery process is so invaluable, because the reality is a high percentage of small businesses need what it is that I do. Like that's not hyperbole. That's not ego. That's not any of that. That's a cold, hard reality that they need it. However, if they don't want it for themselves, their families, their legacy, is not the right time. And I'm never the one to push that. So for the business owner that you're describing that is in a space where it's like, you know what? Nah, I'm not trying to spend what it takes to, because that's how they look at it, right? They're looking at the not as an investment into increasing the market value or enterprise value of their asset. They're looking at it as an expense. And if they're looking at it as an expense, then again, I'm not the one for you. And I'm cool with that. Like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm never going to be the one to push that issue, because it's literally pushing a boulder up a hill. And that's not how I operate. I'm not looking to pull anybody up the mountain. I'm not looking to push nobody up the mountain. I'm looking to walk alongside as we go up the mountain together. And for folks that aren't ready to do that, salutations, man. Salutations. I was just sharing with you how my engagement extended out here for another 2 weeks. And the reason that it extended with the price tag that came along with it is because my client can see the results already. My client went from everything in the business revolving around them to, over the last 3.5 weeks or so, barely even being at work, because there's a management leadership apparatus that has been put into place that's actively being trained and developed to own all of the functions that make the business. And that client understands the value of that, and they see the partnership in it. And they recognize that it is an investment into their future that is going to pay dividends multiple times over. Because once that infrastructure is in place, they don't have to be here. The company continues to grow, and it makes the most revenue that it ever made at the highest profit margin that's ever been achieved. For a business owner that doesn't understand that it takes investment to get there, I respect them. Like, do your thing. I'm not tripping. I promise you I'm not tripping. Do your thing. Do your thing. So that discovery process is so essential, because what you're describing as far as her being committed to her own cycle of insanity, God bless her. You know, I mean, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect different results. So for folks that have subscribed to their own cycle of insanity, again, salute.
Hey, it's all on you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. It's funny, man, because I know these are going to be the businesses that I'm going to be brokering the sale in the future because they want out, because they're burnt out. They are 100% burnt out. It
And they're
was
going to get
interesting.
less. When they do
Yeah.
finally, when they recognize that point where it's like, yo, I physically, mentally, spiritually can no longer do this. I can't do it anymore. And then they look at the value of their business and recognize that a good portion of the value that the business delivers is centered on them solely. And the value of that business is a lot lower than the value of a business that's turnkey. In other words, when someone buys it, if the buyer decides to show up or not, it's still going to generate consistent revenue and profitability because it was designed that way.
Look, interesting, man. As I'm studying for my SEPA designation, it's an interesting, I guess, mindset to look at businesses where every 90 days they have these businesses look at their valuation. If they were to sell on that day, what would you get? What would you get? How good are your systems? How good are your SOPs? How trained are your employees? How strong is the leadership? And it's a really, really interesting thing where I was talking to some guys that run another podcast. They're like, "Wow, I never would have thought about it that way." I've always thought like I'm never going to sell my business. You keep equity. It's like, well, are you planning to pass it on to your kids? Are you training your kids to have the mindset to run the business? No. So when you exit, are you just going to sell it to the market? You're going to do an ESOP and make your employees wealthy? Like, what are you going to do? Never thought of that. And immediately, gears are turning. And I'm like, these guys teach people how to run a business, and they've never thought of that. It's like, all this advice ain't the same, bruh. This ain't that, and that show ain't this. I was recently in the office of a business lawyer, super sharp guy. On his website and on his card, it lists off business lawyer, this, and tax strategy. When I sat down with him, I was like, "So you do tax strategy?" He's like, "Well, kinda. I help people with their estate tax." All right, cool. So what would you do if someone had a giant tax bill from last year? I don't know. What would you So I asked him a few questions and he's like, "Yeah, maybe I'm not a tax strategist," but it gets the phone ringing. So it's just like when, I've met other people that claim that they're business coaches. And I start talking to them. So how do you help these businesses? Well, it all starts with the mindset. That's very true. But assuming they have the right mindset and they need systems and structure, they need guidance, they need analytics. Like, what are you doing? What's your go-to? What's the first thing you look at? Well,
And
really,
that be the thing. A lot of folks that wear the title of business coach are, it's kind of like the same thing with, what's the barrier to entry for someone to refer to themselves as a life coach? Like, it's
right.
that barrier to entry is down in the crevices of hell. Like, it's very low. And the same thing exists when it comes to business coaches. So when the business coach is talking about the conversation starting that mindset, I understand. I understand how someone could say that. However, when the conversation starts at the numbers, the mindset is crazy how the mindset will catch up with the numbers, because they could have an emotional idea of how their business is performing just anecdotally. So for example, to take an idea from one's own mind and turn that into a asset that produces millions of dollars in the course of a year. The dopamine hits that come along with that, where it was like, yo, I went from operating out the back of an 87 pickup truck to now having multiple trucks on the road and millions of dollars of revenue coming in. And it's like, yeah, we got, well, when you brought in $3 million and spent 3.1 million in to keep everything going, then you just congratulations, you played yourself. Like you in the hole 100K. So when we have that conversation that starts with the numbers, that says, okay, so salute for the fact that you have created an idea that generated $3 million. That's dope. That's very dope. But what about this $100,000 loss that we're talking about? Like, you cool with that? If you cool with the 100K loss, then we don't really have nothing else to talk about. Then when we start getting into the details of how that $100,000 loss actually happened, it's funny how the mindset will start to catch up with that. So we got to start with the numbers. It ain't nothing emotional. You know what I'm saying? Like, mindset does matter. And I'm not here to say that it don't. It absolutely matters when it comes to operating a business. But the conversation don't start at the mindset. Start at the
Right.
motherfucking
And
numbers.
then also, man, I just want, that really leads me into talking about the mindset piece where, it was a conversation that I had in Vegas when I was doing the training for that financial group, where essentially, oh, give me 1 second. I think I'm going in. Where, all right, there we go. I'm coming in clear. I was having a conversation with a guy who's crushing it. I mean, he's killing it. He's doing phenomenal revenue in his business. And we're talking about some of the different books we're reading and how fun it is to help a client. And someone drove by all crazy, and we both stepped back before crossing the road. It's like, oh man, that was terrible. And then there was a gal that's not in our group there who's like, I wish they would have hit me. That would have been a check. And we kind of chuckled and walked off, but we were like, man, that was really sad. And my mind immediately clicked to all the different times I've heard somebody say that. I wish they would hit me, or hit me. It's a check, insurance. And that is, to them, that's the lottery. And that's where their life gets better. They have more hope in getting a payout from being seriously injured, mortally wounded, than they do their own ability to go out and create money and create the lifestyle that they want to have. And that's sad. That is disheartening for me. What do you think about that statement? Like, how does that resonate with you?
So I've like had that thought, because when I see somebody just step out into the road, you know what I mean? Like, so as a matter of fact, I saw this cat. He was literally walking on the side of the road smoking a cigarette. The sidewalk was right next to him. He wasn't on the sidewalk. He was in the road. And every single time that I see some stupid shit like that, it registers in my mind that the best thing that can possibly happen to that individual is that they actually get hit by a car. Because being hit by a car can fundamentally change their whole life. And it's like, bro, for me, like I don't even like speaking this stuff because words matter, and I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, like the how the world revolves and how all of that stuff. I believe in that deeply, manifestation. But for me, bro, I'm not even trying to have a common cold. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have time to have a common cold. Like I got a lot of value to deliver to this world and to the ecosystems that I'm a part of. The best thing that's going to happen to me is to remain healthy so that I can perform my God-given talent. Like my passion, I can work in my passion and purpose piece. If if something like that were to happen to me, if I were to be hit by a car, that would like fundamentally reduce what I'm able to produce. Because when I'm healthy, like I see the invoices that get signed for what I do every week. When I'm healthy, we Gucci. You know what I'm saying? But it absolutely is sad that there are a ton of people that the best day in their life is going to be the worst day in their life.
It's unfortunate because folks don't realize that expression, health is wealth. And I've seen people that go to the gym, they eat right, and they still will make that statement. Why are you working hard to be healthy, working on your longevity, if you would trade it for dollars? That is insane to me. It kind of makes me think about, I think it was called the Dalai Lama's question. So essentially, this guy hangs out and he's waiting for the Dalai Lama so he can ask a question. And he waits for about 4 hours and it's all done. The temple's closed down. And then he ends up running into the Dalai Lama anyways later on. And he's like, "Oh, I waited for so long. I got this question for you." And it's a little out of the ordinary. Is that okay? Like, yes, I hope you have another question after this question. Yes. It's like, so what surprises you most in this world? And then the Dalai Lama answered, man, just answered in one word. And, that's not a very satisfying answer after you've waited all that time, climbed a mountain, did all that stuff. Like, could you elaborate? Well, sure. It's like, man is someone who sacrifices all of his time for money and neglects his health just to end up later in life exchanging all his money to buy more time and try to buy their health back. Someone who never really thinks about death. So they live this life as if they're never going to die. And then they end up dying, having never really lived the life that they wanted to live. Mm-hmm. How paradoxical. It's like, mic drop. Yeah. That's what a lot of these folks are doing, bro.
No, it's nasty work, bro. It's nasty work. But it's the thing where I literally read a meme on this today, and I'm paraphrasing it, but it was something to the effect of a lot of folks go with what is easy, which makes their life hard. And that is 100% like when we start talking about the price of, for example, having the wrong team in place in business, because the amount of business owners that I've met that they have toxic folks on their team and they are unwilling to do anything about it because in their mind they're thinking about how much value that that person brings to the company. Like if that person weren't here, we wouldn't be able to fulfill whatever it is that we've sold. And it's like, bro, the unfortunate reality though is when you actually have a team of people and you got the wrong person in position, that wrong person is dragging down the productivity of everybody else around them. So they may be good at what they do as far as like doing the actual thing, whatever that business does. But in the aggregate, it's a drag on everything. And it's like the easy thing is to just turn a blind eye. When these things are happening that are toxic within the culture of the business, we're not even going to address that because if I say something, they might leave. And it's like, bro, do you know what it's costing your company to keep them?
The weight of bad leadership. It was like the first quote we kept saying over and over again on here. You know, when a good person meets a bad system, the system wins every single time. So that's why we have to change the system. A deeper dive on that is, you know, we're supposed to have grace and empathy for people, and we have to be relentless and unforgiving against systems and the tearing down of them and the evaluation of them. I couldn't agree with you more. I can't tell you how many jobs I've had in the past where I had poor leadership and it led me to leave something that I was really good at. So I stopped generating that sort of money for the company. You know, when I was doing telecom stuff, I look up and I'm like, dang, I've generated like $3 million for this company. And they were making it next to impossible for me to net 100K. That math is not mathing at all in any way, shape, or form. So then, you know, the best of us all left and we found different opportunities. Even at California Casualty, it's funny, they reached out to me to asking me if I would come back. So I asked, I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's the commission looking like these days? And it is half of what it was when I was there. So you guys want me to come back, work for you, where you control my schedule, and it's half of the money that I made before when I worked with you guys. And you got, man, and it's more stuff I can't say because I signed an NDA and I took a severance, but man, they tripping. Let's just leave it there. They are big tripping. Where very powerful, transformative leadership would look at someone and say, look, this person's phenomenal at what they're doing. I need to tap in with them and see what they like, what they don't like, what I could do to help them be more successful, whether it's tweaking a pay plan, whether it's tweaking their schedule so they can go to their daughter's dance lessons once a week, or just some simple stuff to keep the people who are moving the needle happy so they can continue to move the needle. You know, 80% of the people really do carry the whole load, especially when we talk about sales and sales teams. Even when you have the best sales coaches in the world, there will always be a small minority that way out produces everyone else. Make sure those people, one, are right for your culture. Because, like you said, if they're incredible at being a producer, but they're a toxin to the team, they got to go. Assuming that they're not that person, what can you do to make their life easier so that they could, or what can you do to help them produce more? I had a company where I was number one, and I asked them, I said, hey, can I work one day on the weekend just so I could come in and make more calls? And I will do it for no hourly pay. I just want the extra hours to be able to get my commission up even more than what it is. And they turned me down. They said, no, Jesse.
So the irony that we're having this conversation right now is just, yeah, this is God's work. But I was, so I had a conversation before we started filming this episode that led to our pre-production conversation where I was sharing this contract that I'm on. The folks that I have to deal with within like the infrastructure, not the clients that I work with, but the infrastructure that governs my ability to work with the clients on the behalf of Bullseye Consulting. They have like such a cookie cutter style framework that has been designed to account for folks that wear the same title as me, but on their very best day couldn't do half of what I do in a quarter of the time that I do it in. Like they're just not, and that's not from a, I'm not saying that from a space of ego or anything like that. I'm saying that from a space of I've invested into myself to become who I am and have the capability that I have. Like this is intentional. This is intentionality at work. So when I show up and to do what I got to do, the results are systematic. It's just, it's rocking and rolling. Whereas, again, a lot of the folks that wear the same title as me, they don't have the same experiences. They don't have the same motivations. They don't have the same capabilities that I do. Yet I'm subjected to this same kind of cookie cutter framework that's designed to take into account the lowest denomination of folk that wear the title that I wear. And it's like what they don't understand, because I started counting my days down the second that I recognized that they have a cookie cutter approach that does not recognize the talent of the individuals on their team. Like I knew, yeah, this is going to be a, you know what I'm saying? Like I already know what my exit strategy looks like because of that. And mind you, like I was sharing with you, and I'm only going share this just because to put it in like real clear context for our classmates. In a 9-week project, I'm gonna pull about 30K for the work that's being done. Now, setting aside the fact that 30K is a very small percentage of what I'm generating for these folks. Setting that aside, if I could just come and do my thing, collect my check and go, it wouldn't be as big of a thing because all of this is benefiting towards Bullseye Consulting. And I know that. Like the amount of fucking phone calls that I keep getting about these folks offering me capital, like access to capital, like my inbox, my voicemail is like literally flooded with the same calls. You've qualified for this. You've qualified for this. We want to give you money. And it's like this, the what's coming in is great. I'm not going to be staying though, because there's no way in hell. Like y'all got me fucked up. Y'all got me seriously fucked up. And it traces back to what it is that we talking here. Like it's, I don't know, man. It's yeah, shit's insane.
I love that you are mindful enough of reattaching yourself to the goal, even though you're dealing with nonsense, and that the market rewards value. And you are so head and shoulders above the rest of your peers, you're going to get rewarded everywhere. Even with this little funky system that doesn't really understand talent and it doesn't understand other skills that you have put on, other ways you've invested in yourself to do what you do, clients clearly see it. And I'm sure if we charted the results of your clients versus other people's clients, it's not even close.
No, it's definitely not. It's going to be night and day, because the thing is, leadership. There's a fundamental difference between management and leadership. And oftentimes when we're talking about the valuation of a company, what drives the valuation of a company is there a management team in place that can produce consistent results financially from the revenue down to the profit? Well, my perspective is a lot different than that in the sense of, my goal is not to build a management team. My mission is to deliver a leadership team, because in delivering a leadership team, that leadership team understands the assignment to an intimate level, and they own that mission and they execute accordingly because they recognize how their actions tie to the bigger picture. That's leadership. Management is implementing and sustaining existing processes. When you have a standard operating procedure and you have a checklist and you have a job description and you have a performance expectation and you have a ... all of these different resources that are necessary for a business to become self-sustainable. You can have all of those things. Absent actual leadership, all of those things are over time gonna go wayside. The amount of, because when I first started doing this consulting thing back in 2018, I started working with major corporations, like major companies, 500 or more employees. They had SOPs already. They had job descriptions already. They had all of that shit. But the problem was the folks that were put into positions to maintain all of that, they were not leaders. So then they're just governing by all of this outdated shit. Like my philosophy on all of that, SOPs and all of the things, those are living, evolving documents, because the world is constantly changing. People are constantly changing, which means that employees are constantly changing and customers are constantly changing their mindset. Customers change their mindset on how they see the value of any given product or service. Employees' mindset changes on the value of work and delivering value. Those processes have to evolve with how the world is evolving. So those things change. It takes leaders, not managers, leaders, to be able to leverage that reality, to continue to be able to motivate the highest version of the teams that report to them, because they know this is a constantly evolving world that we operate in. It's a difference. And the results that produce are going to be different. So it's a lot of folks that wear the title that I wear, and they hang their hats on building management teams. Well, no. Because even going back to what you said earlier, as far as, you know, when their conversation starts at the mindset, there's already a separation. You know what I'm saying? As we've already discussed. But looking at it from, like, taking that a step further and looking at it from the context of the value of building a management team. Yeah, I get it. But a management team is going to hit their glass ceiling. When you build a leadership team, however, ain't no ceiling, big.
That's heavy. He's talking heavy. I hope they're listening. Bro, that is serious. You're talking about how's the sky the limit? I see footprints on the moon. Um, I love it, bro. That was so powerful. And it is a clear distinction between leadership and management. And I think, in the 90s, we started seeing the vernacular change, but sometimes the infrastructure didn't change. Where we're like, we're all about leadership, and then it's a crash course on corporate management. Management is important where it's important, but leadership, to me, it's always been taking someone from one place to another where you're executing and you have that person working in their highest capacity and they want to do it. You're using your influence to get people to buy into something greater. Whereas management, you might be hiring and firing people to do a job, and they're completely disconnected from what the mission really is. So, bro, that is powerful. Did you have any other thoughts in closing?
Yeah, no. So I'll say this last piece. I was literally having this conversation with a young man that has been promoted into a leadership position. And, data is generally only as valuable as how and when it's used. So we got all of
Mm-hmm.
these metrics that have now been put into place that never existed before. And what makes the difference between identifying and implementing key performance indicators versus developing the soft leadership skills that it takes for that data to drive intentional growth and sustainment. So we were having a conversation about what the stats were reporting. And my message to this young man was, you're looking at the data for one purpose. And that purpose is to identify variances. Because when you're looking at variances, that gives you a high level idea of where you probably need to focus your energy. And when we're talking about how you focus your energy, when you're looking at data and you have assumptions as to what caused that data to reflect that way, and you take that to your people in the form of an assumption, you know what we do when we assume? Make an ass out of you and me. So instead of having assumptions based on the data, that data should drive an unwavering scale of curiosity where you're seeking understanding as a leader. You're asking the question to gain understanding as opposed to grandstanding on wearing a title and having data. Where we're looking at this data and we're now coming down to poke and prod at somebody. You didn't hit your metric. You didn't hit your metric. What the fuck good is that? Now, when you flip that around and you say, hey, man, what happened with this last week? And allow them to answer the fucking question. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
because there could be so much insight in there. I know when I've had times where I've had a great leader come to me, hey, what happened? What's going on here? You're normally doing this. Now this is your performance level. It was like, well, I can tell the marketing has changed. So this has been my inflow of clients. So I'm having these conversations instead of these. And then they're able to make some actionable decisions based off of that instead of finger pointing.
nasty work. But that's the difference, again, between management versus leadership. And there is a profound cost that comes along with it. I honestly cannot wait to see what the bottom line results materialize to with this engagement that I'm currently on, because I've already physically seen the results, but like actually seeing the financial results of what's going on. And it's a lot of factors that go into why the real-time stats are not reflecting what's going on right now. Like that's a whole other part of the engagement that we can talk about on another episode. But again, like as all of that stuff, all of that other work that needs to get done is flushed out, and then it's like conjoined with the leadership team and what the leadership team is now producing, it's going to be a whole different business, like truly, because what was marginal performance, and I'm not talking marginal in the context of business margins, I'm talking marginal in the sense of embarrassing, like embarrassing results to, bro, what? Like, we just now took our net profit from this to that because the team is productive. And we're now able to get far more done with far less resources because people are held accountable. And we're doing this in perpetuity because as the business, as more sales are coming in, we're hiring more people, but plugging them into a framework of accountability to keep up with said demand. And now we just talking a whole different scale of quality of life. And that's what it boiled down to. Fuck all of the profitability and all that. Like, what does the quality of life actually look like? For the young lady that you were sharing about before that's doing all of the bookkeeping and all of the things, a 70-hour work week, I don't give a damn how many millions of dollars you're bringing in. If you can't go see your kids' basketball game, or you got to miss prom night of, your kid coming in with their date and all of the things that come along with that because you out working, it don't fucking matter how much that you producing. Like, what that quality of life do though?
It's the Dalai Lama's dilemma getting lived out, getting played out right before our eyes. They're living these lives as if they'll never die, and then die having never lived the life that they actually wanted to live. Tragic Johnson.
Tragic Johnson. Oh, bars. Man. Oh, man. So check it out. When it comes to this program and the intent behind it, we are always here to give actionable, implementable, if that's a word, strategies. And for those in our audience who recognize that and continue to rock with us as a result of it, understand that we do not take it lightly. We do not take it for granted. You are appreciated within the asset class. It's been my man Earl.
My dude Jesse.
Thank you for this. Has been the asset class. Thank you for listening.